Dragon Ball Legends is having its most polarizing anniversary to date. A part 1 that lacked inspiration and a part 2 that was well executed, but wasn't exactly the characters that a large portion of the fan base wanted to summon for, and a gacha game. So that leaves us with part 3. Arguably the biggest part of any Legend celebration because it's where they drop their highest rarity character, an Ultra. This year, there's a few things pointing towards the fact that they might have more in store for us than a typical part 3, including the biggest change we've ever seen. Starting with Shallot. Something very interesting is going on with Shallot, besides the fact that he's telling you to like this video right now. But Shallot is the only unit in the game to have a platinum equipment that isn't an Ultra, at least currently. This might be pure cope, but I want to believe this was actually a teaser for Shallot becoming an Ultra. As you guys know, Shallot changing his rarity isn't new since he debuted as a hero unit and then later got an update where you can change his rarity to an SP. So is it possible he's about to get another upgrade and become an Ultra? I actually don't think it's completely out of the question. We haven't had a free-to-play Ultra since Omega released in October of 2021. So we're definitely due up for one, and this is 100% cope. But Shallot isn't playable still, and he debuted over 2.5 years ago. So I'm hoping that Shallot's new gimmick as an Ultra is the ability to tag switch with Giblet and fuse into Shallot like the 6th anniversary headlining unit. I know, full cope. But this is the kind of stuff this game should be doing in a massive celebration like this. And speaking of big celebrations, Girls Frontline 2 Exilium is celebrating a big event, and right now is the perfect time to dive in. Girls Frontline 2 Exilium is the sponsor of this video, and it's a stunning tactical 3D RPG available for both mobile devices and PC. The game blends deep strategy with fast-paced 3D combat across multiple modes, like squad-based tactics, boss fights, and now the all-new artifact recovery mode. In it, you team up with the underground brokers to score rare materials and powerful bonus effects that completely change the game. And can we talk about the visuals? The non-photorealistic rendering based on PBR tech gives the dolls and battle animations this sleek anime meets high detail vibe that looks insane in motions. The dolls, awesome. The attack animations, so clean. Now, let's talk rewards. The targeted procurement banner just got updated with boosted drop rates for Springfield Perry and Meki. Yes, the rerun is back. You can also get 40 free banner pools via signing events, and you can get a new doll Faye for free by completing tasks during the limited time event. Plus, new elite weapons are here too. Springfield's Radiance, Perry's Amanita, and Faye's Hestia. You're going to want all 3. Plus, there's limited time discount skins for Midnight Waltz and Dawn Sentry. And check this out, the dolls themselves actually have a dormitory you can go into, and they have an interactive sort of sequence you can do with each of them. Also, past event stories are being integrated into the main story campaign, starting with Sojourner's Part 1 and 2, so no more FOMO if you missed out earlier. And for you in-game players, don't miss the new Crossroads trial boss fight featuring the terrifying Terrorhorn Chimera. Last thing, Girls Frontline 2 Exilium is showing up big at Anime Expo 2025, July 3rd through the 6th. They're bringing a real-life Sakura cafe pop-up run by none other than manager Springfield herself. There will be cosplay, exclusive merch, free goodies, and more. If you're going, you don't want to miss it. So whether you're a returning commander or completely new, now is the time to dive into Girls Frontline 2 Exilium by clicking my link down below in the description or scanning that QR code you've seen on screen to join the fight. Now, before we get to true character predictions, we need to talk about 2 hints specifically that could be pointing towards a huge change for part 3. First up is on the actual anniversary website. They've been detailing different campaigns that have been coming along. Campaign 6 was discussing the dynamic area battles, and campaign 7 currently says coming soon. Now you couple that with the fact that Tani said this during the part 2 Legends info.
It's not the last update for Legends 7th anniversary year though. There's one last major update coming.
And you start trying to wrap your head around what they mean by this. What could they possibly do that's another massive update? For reference, the other 2 updates that Tani is referring to, first off is the UI update that they did right before the anniversary dropped, and secondly are the dynamic battles for part 2. These are both huge updates. So a third update, what could that mean? You start wrapping your mind around that with the fact that they have this Legends Campaign 7 in full question marks, and it could mean a lot. And one thing that we've talked about a lot on this channel is the fact that there's only one Ultra for the entirety of this year so far. 7 months in and only one singular Ultra. They are clearly holding on to another Ultra or something massive somewhere, and my guess is that it's here in part 3 of the anniversary. So my expectation right now for part 3 is, as usual, an Ultra. And I want to set my expectation right there. But I think it could go substantially further than that. The next most easiest step would be 2 Ultras at once. I've seen a lot of disdain for this idea because Ultras are more difficult to summon. At the end of the day, it is still a gacha game. They want you to spend your Chrono Crystals. They want you to hopefully buy more Chrono Crystals, etc. how else to do that than to drop more characters, and specifically ultras. Also, even though these two would be at the same time, you would have been presented with an ultra prior to now anyway, right? In the typical fashion. In the last few years, we've had 2 ultras prior to the anniversary. So this will just be finally catching up to that. Just so happens that they're dropping at the same time. Now, the next step beyond 2 ultras is the thing I've yapped about for years at this point, and that's ultra LFs. Legendary finishes are really, really cool. They're a selling point for Dragon Ball Legends. The other selling point of Dragon Ball Legends are its ultras. It definitely gives this sort of unique feel to Dragon Ball Legends. So why not team those 2 things up? Right? You've heard me yap about this for so long now. It just makes so much sense. I even think they might even call them just ultra finishes to give them a bit of a differentiating factor from SPs. And I really hope if they ever do this, it incorporates the ink art animation that started out as a very defining factor to these. That is, they've definitely been lost a little bit. There's not quite as much ink to the sort of ink art of these characters as they were, especially on the debut, right? The debut Super Saiyan Namek Goku, I think, does the ink art animation the best still out of any of them in terms of the true, like, this is ink on paper kind of thing. So incorporating that into the actual LF itself or ultra finish would be so sick, and it could be this sort of other huge update they're referring to, because this would be a massive update. Now, I'm not done talking on what this massive update could be, but we need to get to character picks in order to do that. As far as where I land, solo ultra, double ultras, ultra LF, listen, man, Saiyan Saga was part 2 of an anniversary. That is something I could have never predicted. So I'm going into this with multiple theories as we go through and choose different characters based on whether it be double ultras or one singular ultra LF or just one singular ultra period. Starting with the Daima tag, because we have a Daima banner that features LF SSJ 3, SSJ 4, and Daimaku all in one massive banner a literal week before we are going into part 3 of the celebration. So people are like, hang on, could it be Daima? I'm gonna go on the record and say no, I don't think so. I do think there are 3 very obvious ultra characters from Daima they could do, which is SSJ 3 Vegeta, adult SSJ 4 Goku, and of course mini SSJ 4 Goku could all be ultras in this game. I don't think they would do that here. Daima is still very solid, very good, still one of the best teams in the game. It does not need more fuel, so simply from a game balancing aspect, I don't think you hand Daima an ultra at this time. You give them a bit more time to breathe, a bit more time to get a little more aged a bit, and then you give them some new equips. You give them an ultra, you do, you know, a celebration around them again and bring them back to the forefront. But right now they're good, they don't need it. Now our next hint is the Zenkai for this revival Frieza. And of course, as soon as people saw that, they immediately went to, okay, part 3 is Namek, and maybe it's a double ultra where we're getting full power Frieza and Super Saiyan Namek Goku. And while I'm absolutely not against that, I'm so here for that. Namek Frieza specifically needs so much more representation in this game, and I'm really shocked that the only ultra version of Frieza is literally his golden side. And then Namek Goku, obviously the first ever ultra, but is free to play. There's a couple things though I want to say about this. First off, what if this Frieza Zenkai is actually just a red herring, a comparable to the freaking fusion bug situation in Daima, where we all thought like this is just a GT run back, we'll get Super Saiyan 4, and all of a sudden they said, no, look, there's these new fusion bugs. And so then all of our minds started racing, right? We're like, okay, is it going to be a new Goku and Vegeta fusion? Is Goku going to fuse with Glorio? Goku going to fuse with Nahare? You know, right? Shin. We started thinking of all this stuff, right? Like they really threw us off. Then they did absolutely nothing with the fusion bugs in Daima, and it just ended up being Super Saiyan 4. Okay, so my thing is, what if this is more related to the LF post anniversary? Because you got to think, this is a July release. We are now in July, so this revival Frieza Zenkai is technically in July, and we always get, or not always, but we typically get an LF post anniversary. Last year we got LF Omega Shenron following up Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. The year before that we got LF Perfect Cell following up Vegito Blue. So it's not out of the question that this really is a red herring, and they just don't want us to actually guess what the character is going to be. They're trying to really throw us off the scent as to what they are doing. Now, if they were to go down this route, I think it could easily be any of the things we've talked about. It could just be one singular ultra, and it's just a standard ultra, but it is a transforming Namek Goku with animations unlike anything we've seen. It could also be double ultra with full power Frieza and transforming Namek Goku. It could also be ultra LF Namek Goku. I think it could quite literally be any of those 3 things. Now, here's my only 2 things that I think go against this. First off, they just revised Namek Goku less than 2 years ago. He was the August 2023 release, and he was a revamp of an already existing LF, which we're totally fine with, right? They have been cooking so hard with animations. That's the one, I think that's the one thing character choices aside, all that stuff from part 2, but the one thing I don't think that you can really like criticize them on is animations, because those 2 like characters have some of the best animations in this game we've ever seen. They're really cooking with animations. But that Goku is not old at all, right? And the original Ultra Super Saiyan Goku started out as the app icon for the 7th anniversary. And while I know we've been getting equips that sort of give these Ultras new life, we haven't actually gotten a proper Zenkai for an Ultra yet. And I think if you were going to debut the first ever Zenkai, which I think you'd want to debut it on the first ever Ultra, the first ever Zenkai Ultra, and you'd want to debut it on the first ever Ultra, you do it here. And if they were going to do that here, and again, because he literally started out as the app icon, he started the 7th anniversary and then eventually later changed to UI Goku. I don't think you would Zenkai him here and then also do him as a summonable unit. That's like my only thing. Let's just be real. Let's keep it real with each other. They're not doing Frieza standalone as the Part 3 Ultra, right? They're not going to give us like summonable full power Frieza that's awesome and crazy as the 7th anniversary only summonable Ultra. He could be here tagged along with Goku, but he's not the summonable Ultra. And then like, also, but look, we're doing our first ever Zenkai Ultra too. Like, I don't think that's happening. But I do think it'd be really cool if they would give us the Zenkai for a free-to-play Ultra, make it very meta relevant, make Shallot an Ultra, and really give some love back to the free-to-play side of the game. I especially think this is possible if they do either Ultra LF or double Ultras, because they're like, hey, look, we're dropping 2 Ultras at one time, but also we're really doing a lot here for the free-to-play side of things to sort of counterbalance it. The last thing I'll say, and this is kind of related back to that sort of huge update, did you guys know in Sparking Zero, where they showed off a bunch of really cool, like, you can do these destructive environments, right? And then it really was only Namek that you could like do it where you completely changed the environment. Again, still really cool. Which, so like the stage issue in Sparking Zero is a whole nother video. What if they finally brought that here? Right? Like, what if that is part of the update? We haven't had characters that actually change the environment. So that's sort of like a big aspect of the older game, or just Dragon Ball games in general, right? Is doing your ultimates that are like planetary destructive level ults, and they actually do change the environment. That is something we've not seen in Legends. And with this massive update, instead of it being an Ultra LF, it could just be an Ultra that has an ultimate that actually changes the environment. That is something I would love to see, and that would wow people like crazy. It would wow me, dog. Like, you'd have me like pogging like crazy over here if they would do something like that. There are some people that would probably say Super Saiyan Namek is not somehow anniversary closing worthy, possibly. I don't agree with that, but we need to look at things as an entire package. It's like looking at part 2 at the Saiyan Saga. Saiyan Saga itself, a weird one for some people, but I think when you look at it as the total package, a really good part 2. I think the third part update they could be doing is actual like destructive or interactive environments, as opposed to that being the Ultra LF, but it could also be just Ultra LF. Speaking of Ultra LFs, Majin Buu Saga, a revamp of LF Green Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the finishing Dragon Ball Z Spirit Bomb, and they do a revamp on that specifically, with maybe a new type of mechanic, and it's our first ever Ultra LF, and it's Goku throwing a Spirit Bomb with somebody. But what if it's Goku actually gathering energy and you're doing something in game that is gathering energy the entire time? So like in Sparking Zero, as one of the Gokus, you can literally like mid-match, you can use skill points to boost up and gather energy for your Spirit Bomb while you're still fighting. And what if they did something like that to kind of sort of make it feel a little bit different? Like, it could still be a tag thing, because here are the 2 other hints I want to bring back for this. First off, Goku and Vegeta theme. I think no matter what, I think that's the real sort of quote unquote theme here. So I think we see Goku and Vegeta involved in this part 3 unit pretty much no matter what. They kind of throws a wrench in the Namek prediction, because that would be Frieza. I think it's just going to be a Goku and Vegeta in some form or fashion. Secondly, if you've noticed anything, part 1 of the 7th anniversary was Dokkan's 6th anniversary. Part 2 of the 7th anniversary was Dokkan's 7th anniversary. Part 3 of the Legends anniversary, Dokkan's 8th anniversary. If you're not familiar, the 8th anniversary headliners were Goku and Vegeta that did the End of Z Spirit Bomb. And then it was the Universal Spirit Bomb from GT. So it would be funny, and I think they'd almost be cheeky to do this, but I think they could, I think they would just to do it. Spirit Bomb Goku. Right? So I definitely do think that is a very real contender here. And if they go that route, it would have to be an LF. You can't do that moment as an Ultra or really at all and not make it some sort of finisher move. Next up, and this is a crazy one, but if you go to Sagas from the Movies right now in your box, and if you're a collector like me, you've got everybody, you'll notice there have been 0 characters, no free-to-plays, no nothing in 2025 for Sagas from the Movies, which is very weird. They never go that long, and especially during celebrations. I think if we really sit here and like thought about it, every celebration has some sort of Sagas from the movie representation, which brings me to the fact that I think this is where we might see it. Now, obviously, I think if they come back to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan as an Ultra, they're going to do the father-son Kamehameha. I think that just makes the most sense. So while I think he is always a possibility for an Ultra Super Saiyan 2 versus Bojack, I don't think it would be here. So I'm leaning more towards Goku and Vegeta, who either go into Super Gogeta. So if this is the Super Gogeta people wanted, but it's an Ultra LF, or and hear me out on this, two potential different outcomes. One is that this Frieza Zenkai, while it does directly Zenkai buff Blue LOE and does not do Frieza Force or nothing like that, do you know who's on Frieza Force? You're right, DBS Broly. DBS Broly is in fact on there. He is a character who's been neglected. He has not had a premium like Legends Limited or Ultra or literally anything since the end of 2020. He will be, that blue one will be 5 years old this December. That's crazy. So they could do the double ultra thing, but then his paired up unit is not a Gogeta. They don't do Gogeta because they're like, okay, hang on, we're gonna hang on to fusions for a bit. They do the first ever ultra tag unit, and the intro is them becoming gods. And then mid-match, they can transform into blues. That is my true ultimate pitch. And then you pair that up with DBS Broly because you do two ultras at that point, in my opinion. Now, on the flip side of this, you notice I mentioned earlier, Shallot with his ability to, as an ultra, bring in a tag switch mechanic with Giblet and then potentially fuse and Shallot. Now, obviously, I doubt they would debut that as a free unit. I don't think they would. Let's be real. They want you to have to summon him, spend money for that. So what if they do that here instead? Now, I don't necessarily need a fusion here. Like, I won't lie. Like they have given us so many fusions. I need some distance from fusions. Truly, I'm cool with some distance from fusions. Like, honestly, I really just want to tag Super Saiyan God Goku and Vegeta. That and DBS Broly are the two things that I want the most in this game right now. Like, I'm not kidding. If I could choose anything to put in this game literally right now, it is that. I want that so bad. I love Super Saiyan God Goku and Vegeta from that movie specifically. But for my Shallot theory to work, then we would definitely need the other thing to happen, which is a premium summonable version of that. That is Goku and Vegeta tag unit, which would be our first ever ultra tag unit, but then also be our first ever ultra that would then also use the Synchro gauge to go into a fusion. Now, I'm fully aware that that is literally the last year's 6th anniversary unit, except the difference here is that they would start out as gods, because the thing that I'm definitely picking, I had this idea previously, but then I've seen it now in custom edits. I love this idea of tag units that still have their main ability to tag switch, but then they use the actual Synchro gauge, or what I'm going to call the active ability button, to do a transformation. So they could start out as gods. That could be their intro animation. Then they can transform and go up to blues, and then fuse and go into Gogeta Blue. And then they give that unit specifically in Ultra LF. If it is a solo standalone Ultra, and they let Gogeta Blue be the first ever Ultra LF, since Super Gogeta was the first ever summonable Ultra. And the final thing to add to this, I know it seems so soon to go back to this moment or anything to do with Gogeta, but the thing is, all the Gogeta banners are coming back. All 3 of the Ultra Gogetas that exist in the game are coming back, as well as a Limit Break banner that, guess what the poster boys of that are? It is the Blue Goku and Blue Vegeta. So I'm telling you, it is unironically not a very far shot that Super Gogeta or Gogeta Blue could genuinely show up for part 3 of this anniversary. And I feel like I'm saying this as if that takes much convincing. There's been no fusion this celebration. There's been no sagas from the movies all year. I don't think it would shock literally anybody for a fusion or something from a movie to be part 3. Then, just because Dokkan went back to it so soon, this is not going to happen. But I just want to throw this out there. Tag Super Saiyan Blues that can fuse into Vegito Blue. It doesn't exist. First ever ultra like tag unit that can fuse, make it be VB, so that way it's kind of some balance between Vegito and Gogeta. Sure, man. Like, Dokkan just went back to it, so like, you know. Dokkan GT. I feel like a lot of people have fallen off this idea, but I'm still not totally, I'm not totally convinced they're not doing this. Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Goku and an Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta together, dual, like not as a tag. They could do a tag. I don't think they would just yet, since he was like, Gogeta was literally last year's Ultra. But separate standalone units, dual Ultra banners, Goku and Vegeta, boom, right? I already mentioned it, but also Universal Spirit Bomb Goku as well is I guess a thing. But I'm a little less like warm on that as I am the actual like Majin Buu Saga Spirit Bomb Goku. But I do feel like this was a unanimous, like, we really all think this could be a thing for part 3, and a lot of people have sort of fallen off that idea, and I really haven't yet. I think these are 2 characters that are very, very underrepresented in this game. They haven't touched, like, the last premium Goku was over 4 years ago. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the yellow one, is over 4 years old at this point, and Vegeta has not had a standalone Vegeta unit. By the way, I'm referring to solo. I very much so remember the tag unit. I'm talking about just like solo releases, which I consider different from the tag versions. The last solo Vegeta release is like be 6 years old this December. So we're due up for some new versions of these 2 characters. And my last thing, and this is if they actually are doing something with Namek, but they're doing something with Namek that's like different, is if they pulled from Sparking Zero and they did a game original, and it's Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Vegeta on Namek. Game original from Sparking Zero. Then there is one last tag that we haven't discussed that could be buffed one more time this anniversary, and that Zenkai Blue Frieza could actually be pointing toward, because everyone immediately went to Namek, and I get that because this Frieza specifically is Namek. But what could end up being a blue LOE card, besides them obviously doing like a tag Goku and Vegeta versus like an Ultra Cooler? I don't think they would do that here. Maybe that'd be so sick, but no, LOE on a card, but it's not Namek. Yeah, they could revisit Goku and Frieza, and Goku and Frieza could be our first ever Ultra tag unit. I mean, it's not out of the question. Okay, I won't lie, if it wasn't for him saying one more massive update coming, I probably would have dropped the Ultra LF banner. But I also think just everything that's been going on with the game, it leans towards something. They've got something up their sleeve. I think they're going to bring it, whether it be double ultras, Ultra LF. I think there's going to be a very wow factor to whatever we see during this part 3 reveals and stuff in just literally a few days. So if you guys are looking for more content on this channel, you can click right here. Don't forget this video is sponsored by Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, which you can check out by clicking the link down below in the description. Have a great day. Keep on keeping on. See you guys in the next one. Bye.